The galaxy's apex hunters fell silent when a human picked up their Alpha's cub. The Kythera had ruled the outer rim for 3 millennia. 8 feet of scaled muscle, razor claws, and predatory intelligence that had earned them the fear of every species from the core worlds to the void territories. Their hunting packs moved through space like living nightmares, taking what they wanted when they wanted it. Captain Sarah Chen had heard the stories. Entire colonies going dark, trade routes abandoned, even the Galactic Council's peacekeeping fleets gave Kythera space a wide berth. So when her mining vessel, the Prospector's Dream, picked up a distress beacon in the supposedly empty Kepler 442 system, every instinct screamed at her to jump to hyperspace and pretend she'd never heard. But Sarah Chen had never been good at listening to her instincts when someone needed help. "It's coming from the third moon," reported her navigator Yuki. "Automated beacon, but the signal's weak. Probably been broadcasting for days." Sarah stared at the tactical display. The moon was barren, nothing but rock and ice, no strategic value, no resources worth mining, which made a distress signal even more suspicious. "Could be a trap," muttered her engineer Pavel, not looking up from his console. "Kythera are known for using false distress calls to lure prey." "Could be," Sarah agreed. "But what if it's not?" 20 minutes later, the Prospector's Dream settled onto the moon's frozen surface near what appeared to be a crashed vessel. The ship was unlike anything in the galactic databases, sleek, predatory, built for speed and violence. Definitely Kythera. Sarah suited up despite her crew's protests. The ship's atmospheric scanner showed a thin, barely breathable atmosphere. She could survive for hours with her suit systems, long enough to investigate and get out. The crash site told a story of desperation. Blast marks scarred the hull. Emergency pods had been ejected, most destroyed on impact. But one pod, partially buried in ice, still showed life signs on her scanner. Sarah approached carefully, plasma rifle ready. She'd seen what Kythera could do to a human body. But when she cleared the ice from the pod's viewport, she stopped cold. It wasn't a full-grown Kythera inside. It was a cub. The creature couldn't have been more than a few months old by human standards, maybe equivalent to a human toddler. Its scales were still soft, more gray than the deep black of adults. Its eyes, those terrible golden eyes that haunted spacer nightmares, were closed, and its breathing was shallow. It was dying. Sarah's finger hovered over her comm unit. The smart play was to call it in, let the Galactic Council deal with it. But the cub made a soft sound, almost like a whimper, and something in Sarah's chest twisted. She'd lost her own daughter 3 years ago to a rare genetic disease. Spent months watching her waste away while the best doctors in the galaxy declared it hopeless. She knew what it looked like when a child was dying alone. "Damn it," she whispered, and started working on the pod's release mechanism. Getting the cub aboard took 20 minutes and most of her suit's power reserves. The creature was heavier than it looked, all muscle and dense bone, but it barely stirred as she carried it to the ship's medical bay. "Captain, what the hell?" Pavel started as Sarah stumbled through the airlock. "Medical bay. Now," and prepped the stasis chamber. "That's a Kythera," Yuki breathed, backing against the wall. "It's a baby," Sarah snapped. "Help me or get out of the way." The cub's vital signs were weak but stable once they got it into the medical bay. Severe dehydration, malnutrition, and what looked like radiation poisoning from the crash. Sarah worked for 6 hours straight, using every trick she'd learned during her daughter's illness, adapting human medicine for alien physiology. It was Pavel who noticed the ships first. "Captain," his voice was tight with fear over the comm, "you need to see this." Sarah left the medical bay where the cub was finally sleeping peacefully, its breathing steady. The bridge's main screen showed a sight that made her blood freeze. 12. Kythera hunting ships hung in space around them like birds of prey. Massive predatory vessels that could have reduced the Prospector's Dream to scrap metal in seconds. But they weren't firing. They weren't even moving. They were just waiting. "How long have they been there?" Sarah asked. "They started arriving 6 hours ago," Yuki whispered. Right after you brought that thing aboard. Sarah stared at the ships. 12 hunting vessels, probably carrying enough firepower to level a small city, all watching her ship with the patience of apex predators. Open a channel, she said finally. Captain, open it. The main screen shifted to show the bridge of the lead Cathara vessel. The Alpha was massive even by Cathara standards, his black scales bearing the ritual scars of a dozen hunts. His golden eyes fixed on Sarah with an intensity that made her mouth go dry. For a long moment, neither spoke. The Alpha's gaze seemed to pierce right through her, weighing and measuring. Finally, he spoke, his voice a low rumble that the universal translator rendered into crisp standard. You have something that belongs to us, human. Sarah straightened. The cub? My son. The words carried weight like a mountain falling. He was aboard our flagship when we were attacked by the hegemony. His pod was the only one to escape. Sarah thought of the blast marks on the crashed ship, the destroyed pods. How many others? My mate, my eldest daughter, 67 members of my pack. The Alpha's eyes never left hers. All dead. The silence stretched between them. Sarah could feel her crew's fear, could practically hear their hearts hammering. 12 hunting ships. One word from their Alpha and the prospector's dream would become a debris field. He's hurt, Sarah said quietly. Radiation poisoning, dehydration. I've stabilized him, but he needs proper medical care. Something flickered in the Alpha's eyes. You healed him? I'm a mother too, Sarah said simply. The Alpha studied her for another long moment. Then, impossibly, he inclined his massive head in what could only be respect. Bring him aboard my ship. We have prepared chambers for his recovery. Sarah nodded but didn't move. And my crew? Will be unharmed. You have my word as Alpha of the Kithara. He paused. You could have let him die. You could have spaced him, taken his body as proof of a kill. Why didn't you? Sarah thought of her daughter's last days, of holding her hand as the machines finally went quiet. Because sometimes being human means being better than your fears. 2 hours later, Sarah stood in the docking bay of a Cathara hunting ship, surrounded by the galaxy's most feared predators. The cub, whose name she learned was Thakros, had woken during the transfer and clung to her with surprising strength until his father gently pried him away. The Alpha approached as Sarah prepared to return to her ship. In his massive claws he held something that gleamed in the harsh ship lights, a piece of what looked like crystallized starfire. This is a hunting token, he said, pressing it into her hands. It marks you as pack friend to the Cathara. No member of our species will ever harm you or yours. Sarah looked down at the crystal, feeling its warmth against her palms. I don't need rewards for doing what's right. I know, the Alpha said. That is why you deserve them. As the prospector's dream pulled away from the Cathara fleet, Sarah watched the hunting ships disappear into hyperspace. The crystal token sat on her desk, catching the light of distant stars. Yuki appeared in the doorway, still looking shaken. Think we'll ever see them again? Sarah smiled, thinking of little Thakros and his golden eyes so much like his father's. Probably. The galaxy's smaller than we think. Later, word would spread through the outer rim that the Kithara had pack friends among the humans. Pirates would give human ships wide berth, not wanting to risk the hunter's wrath. Trade routes would reopen. And sometimes when human colonies faced threats too big to handle alone, shadows with golden eyes would appear from the void to even the odds. But Sarah Chen wouldn't learn about any of that for months. Right now, she just sat in her captain's chair, watching the stars and remembering that sometimes the scariest monsters in the galaxy were just parents missing their children. Sometimes being human was enough.